My name is Marla Keane, and I learned something ugly about people the year I resigned without telling a soul. Silence terrifies them more than confrontation. For 7 years, I was the senior account strategist at Bramford and Holt, a boutique consulting firm that pretended it was family. That word, family, was printed on mugs, posters, elevator screens, even the stupid weekly newsletter. But behind closed doors, they mocked the people who believed it. And I was one of the believers. I didn't realize the joke was on me until the day I heard something that snapped me in half, something that still hits me in the chest when I think about it. A quote, a sentence, one line that rewired my entire brain. It came from Jonas Vale, my supervisor, my mentor, the man who built his reputation on smiling while he pushed people off cliffs. He was the antagonist in my story long before I knew I was in one. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how it started. 7 years is long enough to convince yourself you're indispensable, especially when you've carried entire departments through chaos while the people above you took credit, especially when clients ask for you by name, especially when newer employees whisper that you're the backbone. But the thing about being the backbone, no one notices you until you break. Every morning I arrived before everyone except the cleaning staff. My keycard beeped at 6:42 a.m. like clockwork. I opened the blinds, turned on the lights, started the coffee machine and set up for the day. Nobody asked me to. I just wanted things to run smoothly. Marla, you're a lifesaver. Marla, can you jump on this? Marla, I'm going to need you to take point. Always grateful, always subtle praise. But never a promotion, never a raise that reflected the work, never credit on paper. Loyalty was supposed to pay off eventually. It didn't. It was a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday where the air feels stale and people breathe stress into the conference room like second-hand smoke. I'd just closed a major account, one that Jonas had been trying to land for 2 years. Tristan and Moore Textiles, multi-million-dollar contract. That morning the CEO's assistant had emailed. We'd like Marla to lead all strategic efforts. Her pitch sealed the deal. I'd smiled like a child hearing her name on the radio. I should have known better. Around noon I walked past the smaller conference room on my way to the kitchen. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I wasn't even slowing down, but Jonas's voice cut through the hallway, sharp, annoyed, mocking. She actually thinks she's the reason they signed. God, a pause, laughter from someone else. She's a good worker bee, but she's replaceable, they all are. That line rewrote my bloodstream. She's replaceable. Workers, bees, replaceable. My breath stopped. It didn't stutter, didn't shake. It just froze in the doorway of my chest. Then he said the part that became the trigger for everything that came after. I could fire her tomorrow and she wouldn't have anywhere else to go. She's too loyal to leave. Too loyal to leave. I remember the sensation, like my ribs moved inward. He wasn't talking to HR. He wasn't talking strategy. He was talking to impress someone, showing off his power like a playground bully kicking a smaller kid's sandcastle. I stepped backward quietly, careful not to let my heels click, careful not to breathe. My vision tunneled, and for the first time in my life the world didn't feel real. It felt like a badly rendered simulation, and I was glitching at the edges. That sentence, his arrogance, his certainty, turned into a switch in my head. A switch labelled, leave quietly, and take everything they don't think you're capable of taking. Revenge wasn't the plan. Not at first. Escape was. But the two have a habit of intertwining when the right pressure hits the right nerve. Something shifted when I walked back to my desk. The office felt different. People laughed normally, typed normally, moved normally, but all I saw were shadows of how easily they could be turned against me. Or maybe they already were. Whispers that used to feel harmless suddenly felt strategic. Quick glances felt like they meant something. Slack messages about restructuring felt like foreshadowing. Jonas had planted a seed of paranoia in me, one he probably hoped would never sprout. It sprouted immediately. I started noticing the little things that had always been there but never registered. Jonas walking by my desk but never stopping, conversations that ended when I entered the room. The quiet way my work was praised verbally but never documented. The credit that always drifted upward, never sideways. The new intern, Oliver, smug, 24, CC'd on projects he didn't work on. Was this the beginning of phasing me out? Had they been grooming a replacement? Was I really that blind? The mystery felt alive, thrumming, growing. For the first time, I felt like the protagonist of a psychological thriller I didn't know I'd been cast in. It happened 2 days later. I was updating a client deck for the quarterly review when Jonas appeared behind me, too close as usual. "Marla," he said, "need you to send me the final version when you're done. I'm going to present it." I asked gently. The client specifically requested I lead. His smile was ice in human form. "They don't dictate internal structure," he said. "Meaning your accomplishments belong to me, your relationships belong to me, your work belongs to me." And then he added the line that told me my clock had officially started ticking. "Be a team player. Be a team player." The phrase people use right before they stab you and expect you to thank them. I looked at him and something inside me simply died. Loyalty, trust, hope. Gone. But something else was born in that same moment. Strategy. The kind of strategy you can only build when you've been underestimated for years. Quitting publicly would have given them power. They would have replaced me, laughed, moved on. But quitting silently, that would scare them. People like Jonas don't fear confrontation. They fear what they can't predict, what they can't control. So I created a plan that felt almost criminal in its precision. Not illegal, not unethical, just beautifully strategic. First, I updated my contract. I made copies. I printed my non-compete, which was badly written, something Jonas had always bragged about writing himself. I highlighted loopholes. I called a lawyer friend from college who owed me a favor. Second, I began mapping every client relationship, who trusted me, who asked for me, who relied on me more than on the firm. I wasn't trying to steal anyone. I was trying to understand the ecosystem I had actually built. Third, I quietly stopped volunteering for extra projects, stopped fixing others' mistakes, stopped making Jonas look good. Silence, it turns out, is extremely loud when people are used to your noise. By Friday, whispers began. Is Marla okay? Is she pulling back? Did something happen? Jonas tried to mask his confusion. He tried hovering more, nitpicking more, asserting authority more aggressively. But the more he pushed, the more I stepped away. And the more I stepped away, the more clients noticed. I didn't sabotage anything. I just stopped cushioning their incompetence. The crisis happened at 10:17 a.m. the next Monday. Jonas stormed to my desk, slapping a folder onto it. "Why didn't you tell me Richardson Group sent feedback?" I looked up calmly. I wasn't tagged on the thread. "They emailed you directly. I wasn't aware you needed to approve responses before I read them." His jaw clenched. "This isn't the time to get emotional." "I'm not emotional," I said. "I'm informed." His eyes flickered. And then he said something that revealed everything. "You're creating tension on purpose, Marla. I can feel it. You're not being a team player." There it was again, that stupid phrase. But then he added, "Don't forget who built your career. Without this place you'd be irrelevant. Irrelevant. Replaceable. Loyal to a fault." The words echoed in my skull, sharper each time. "Jonas," I said softly, "do you honestly think I need you?" He blinked, startled, because I had never spoken to him like that, because confidence wasn't something he thought I owned. He leaned closer. "I think," he whispered, "you should remember your place." Something in me turned cold. So cold I felt it in my fingertips. "My place," I repeated. "Funny, I was just thinking about that." That night, I stayed in the office until 10:43 p.m. Not working. Studying. I combed through analytics, performance reports, retention numbers, conversion ratios, everything proving how essential my work had been. Everything Jonas had hidden, everything I had built, everything I knew they would collapse without. I printed nothing, saved nothing to company servers, no digital footprints. I simply memorized the truth. And then at 10:44 p.m., I opened a blank document and wrote one sentence. I resign, effective immediately. No notice, no explanation, no transition plan, no list of responsibilities, no exit interview. Just silence. The kind that terrifies the people who believe you belong to them. I scheduled the email to send at 8:00 a.m. the next morning. I arrived early as always. But instead of turning on the lights and starting the coffee machine, I gathered my things, slowly, peacefully, with the kind of calm that feels like a secret. At 7:58 a.m., my finger hovered over the Send Now button. I waited. 7:59. 8:00. Click. A single line, a simple goodbye, no explanation. And then I walked out of Brantford and Holt without a sound. No scene, no drama, no confrontation. Just silence. The kind that makes a villain feel the walls closing in. They mocked it at first. Within an hour, screenshots reached me from people who were secretly loyal to me, not them. Silent resignation, dramatic much. She'll regret this. She wasn't that important. She'll come back begging. Jonas wrote. She was never indispensable. We'll redistribute her accounts by noon. But then noon came, and the clients didn't answer them. And then 1 p.m, and the clients started asking questions. And then 3 p.m, and the clients started requesting meetings. Not with them, with me. And when they realized I wasn't there, panic started leaking through the cracks. Not because I had left, but because I had left without telling them why. A mystery is more dangerous than an enemy. And I had become both. I hadn't planned revenge, but they practically invited it. The next morning, 3 clients reached out asking if I was available for freelance consulting. By the following week it was 12. I still hadn't advertised myself. Still hadn't announced anything publicly. I was simply existing away from them. And my absence was speaking louder than my presence ever had. Jonas sent me an email that Thursday. Short, tight, controlled. We need to discuss transition of your accounts. I didn't reply. The silence was the message. A second email arrived. The clients are confused. You owe us clarification. I owed them nothing. The next day. This is unprofessional. And then. You are harming the company. And finally. Call me, please. The cracks were forming. Revenge wasn't one action. It was a slow psychological burn. They thought I was replaceable. They thought I was loyal. They thought I was trapped. They thought wrong. Because taking the clients wasn't the revenge. Not yet. The revenge was what happened when Jonas realized the truth. When Elliot Brantford asked me to meet on my terms, I don't think he understood what that meant. People like him, men who have been cushioned by hierarchy their entire careers, assume terms means choosing between a Monday or a Tuesday. But my terms, they required something much more difficult. Acknowledgement. The kind they'd spent 7 years avoiding. Before agreeing to the meeting, I drafted my reply carefully. Not cruel, not emotional, not petty. Just surgical. Elliot, I'm willing to meet, but I won't be returning to your office, neutral location, and no Jonas until I say otherwise. The message hung in the air like a blade. I knew what I was doing, I knew how it would read. And I knew it would cut. His reply came 8 minutes later. Understood, where would you prefer? He didn't argue, didn't push back, didn't try to negotiate. Because he knew. The clients weren't his anymore. The leverage wasn't his anymore. And most importantly, the narrative wasn't his anymore. I chose a cafe near the financial district. Bright, open, public. A place where people like Elliot couldn't raise their voices, and people like Jonas couldn't hide behind office doors. I arrived early. Not to prepare, not to strategize, but to enjoy the first meeting of my life where I held all the cards. Elliot walked in at 10:03 a.m. He looked older. Not physically, emotionally. Eyes tired, posture stiff, confidence dimmed. He scanned the room until he found me, then approached cautiously, like I might vanish if he moved too fast. "Marla," he said, sitting across from me, "thank you for meeting." "Of course." He cleared his throat, folding his hands. "We consider your departure a misunderstanding." I smiled. Not warmly, not coldly, just enough to make him shift in his seat. "A misunderstanding implies we spoke," I replied. "We didn't." He exhaled slowly, "Then let's call it an oversight. You oversaw me for 7 years. A quiet hit the table. Heavy, unavoidable. "We'd like to discuss the client movement," Elliot said. "Movement?" I asked, "or migration?" His mouth tightened. "You know what we're dealing with." "What you're dealing with," I corrected, "is consequences." He looked at me then, really looked at me. The first real acknowledgement in 7 years. And he didn't like what he saw. Because it wasn't the quiet, loyal backbone he'd been leaning on. It was someone who no longer owed him stillness. "I want to be transparent," Elliot said. "Some of the partners are concerned." "About the clients?" "Yes." "And about Jonas?" I asked. His jaw tensed. I had found the bruise. Pressed it gently. And he couldn't hide the wince. "Jonas," he said carefully, "handled your exit poorly." I laughed softly. "Is that what we are calling it?" He rubbed his forehead. "He should have respected me. Silence. Recognized my work. More silence. Not told a room I was replaceable." His face fell. He hadn't expected me to say it, not directly, not so cleanly, not with the kind of calm that makes guilt heavier. "You heard that," he said. I didn't blink. "You all said it at one point or another. A small, painful truth." He looked down. Not because he disagreed, but because he remembered. And shame is always easier to feel when someone finally names it. "Marla," he said, voice softer, "we'd like to offer you a consulting contract. A significant one. We want to rebuild your trust. We want you back in some capacity." There it was. The grab. The attempt to reel me back into the place where they felt safe watching me shrink. "I'm not interested in coming back," I said. The sentence seemed to physically hit him. He sat straighter, voice thinning. "Don't be hasty." "I'm not. You built so much here." "I built so much," I corrected. "Not here, you just benefited." Another crack in his posture. "Marla, what do you want?" "What do I want?" The question was too big, too honest, too overdue. But the answer was simple. "Respect." He swallowed. "And compensation that matches my contribution. That can be arranged. And transparency." He nodded. "And acknowledgement." That one made him freeze. Because acknowledgement means admitting the past, admitting negligence, admitting harm. Elliot stared at me, measuring everything I wasn't saying. Finally, "What kind of acknowledgement?" "Start with the truth," I said. "To the partners, to the team, to yourself." He nodded slowly. Then, "And what about Jonas?" I leaned back, meeting his eyes. "He's your problem," I said, "not mine." He looked relieved, like he expected something vengeful. But here was the truth. Vengeance isn't about rage. It's about clarity. And I didn't need to destroy Jonas. He was doing that himself. "Marla," Elliot said carefully, "just be honest with me." "About what?" "Are you actively encouraging clients to leave?" There it was. The accusation wrapped in concern. The doubt wrapped in diplomacy. The poke at morality. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I said, Elliot, if your clients leave when I'm not there, that means I wasn't the problem. Shock flickered in his eyes. Understanding followed. Then fear. Real fear. As we stood to leave, the cafe door swung open, and in walked Jonas Vale. Of course he did. He always had the worst timing, always needed to insert himself where he wasn't invited. His eyes scanned the room, landed on me, then on Elliot, and he froze. His expression said everything. This was not in his plan. He started walking toward us too quickly, too stiffly. Marla, he said, forcing a smile, didn't know you two were meeting. You weren't supposed to, Elliot replied. Jonas blinked. Can we talk privately? He asked me. No, I said. He wasn't expecting that. His smile cracked at the corner. This isn't the place. It is, I said, my voice quiet enough to draw him closer. It's the perfect place. His throat tightened. Marla, you told a room I was replaceable, I said calmly. How's that working out for you? The entire cafe seemed to go silent. His face reddened, eyes narrowed, ego flaring like a cornered animal. That was taken out of context. There was no context, I replied, just arrogance. He exhaled sharply through his nose. You're damaging the company. I'm not damaging anything, I said. Your leadership is. He stepped closer, voice low and venom soft. You need to stop acting like a victim. I smiled. Victims stay quiet, I left. And then, the crack, the slip, the unraveling. You owe us professionalism, he snapped. You owe me an apology, I replied. He stiffened. That's not going to happen. I shrugged. Then neither is your recovery. Elliot stepped between us then, subtle but firm. Jonas, enough. Jonas looked stunned. For the first time in his life, a partner was siding against him in public. He opened his mouth, closed it, and looked at me with something poisonous. Not hatred. Not anger. Fear. Real human fear. The kind bullies feel when they realize the person they thought was small is standing at their full height. I picked up my bag, looked at both men and said, I'll send my terms by end of day. Elliot nodded. Jonas's jaw clenched so hard I heard his teeth grind. And Jonas, I added softly, turning to him, don't ever mistake silence for weakness again. Then I walked out of the cafe. Not triumphant, not smug, not victorious. Just free. But here's the part they didn't know. I remember the moment I realized the storm I unleashed was bigger than the one they prepared for. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when my phone buzzed with the first message. Evelyn, something is happening. Have you seen LinkedIn? I hadn't. I opened it, and there it was. A post from a client I had worked with for 4 years. Officially shifting all consulting operations from Hollister and Wren to my new partner, Evelyn Shaw, because some people don't just do the job, they build the vision. It had 1,300 likes in under 2 hours, and the comments, a funeral procession for Hollister and Wren's reputation. Should have valued your best consultant, hardest working person I ever met, good for her, corporate greed always comes back around. I hadn't asked the client to post it, I hadn't expected anyone to say my name out loud. But they did, loudly, repeatedly, publicly. I'd been quiet for so long that I forgot what it felt like to be defended. It hit harder than I was prepared for. By noon, I got an email from one of the partners, the one who always pretended not to recognize me in the elevator. From Partner 3 subject, we need to talk. Evelyn, what is going on? Half our long-term accounts have paused contract renewals and are reviewing their options. We're getting the sense that you may have influenced this. If so, we'd appreciate a conversation. Appreciate? They had never appreciated anything. I didn't respond, not yet. Because something else was happening. More messages, more calls, more quiet confessions from clients. They never listened to you, Evelyn. We only stayed because of you. You held that place together. Every single person who reached out sounded like someone finally saying what they'd been holding back for years. It was validating in a way I didn't know I needed. But it also confirmed something I'd suspected ever since they mocked my silent resignation. I wasn't the only one who hated the place. I was just the only one who left first. Friday morning, I received the call I had been expecting. Him, the one who said the quote that cracked me open, the one who'd smirked and told the team, "She thinks she's too good for us. Good. Let her leave quietly. Nobody will even notice." The same guy who led the laughter when I turned in my badge. The same guy who pushed for my projects to be reassigned before it even cleared my desk. His voice this time was not smug. It was strained, thin, almost trembling underneath the forced calm. "Evelyn, hey, it's me. Look, things are chaotic here. Your departure has created consequences." I let silence do the work. He exhaled, rattled. "Can you come in?" "No, we just want to understand what happened." "You already know," I said. "We didn't think." "You never did," I replied, "not about me." That shut him up. He tried again. This time the mask slipped. "Clients are leaving, Evelyn. You know how hard things are right now. If you could just..." There it was. Not an apology, not accountability. A plea for my labor to save them again. I ended the call without saying goodbye. A week later, I got another message, this time from someone I actually respected, an older consultant who everyone quietly agreed was the moral compass of that place. He asked for one meeting, one, he said, in neutral territory. I owed him that, so I went. We met in a small cafe across the street from the building I once lived inside for 7 years. He looked tired, older, and not in the normal way, in the something is collapsing from the inside way. He told me everything. Hollister and Wren was losing not just clients, but partners. 3 had stepped back from daily operations, 1 had taken medical leave, 2 were reviewing alternative leadership structures, the rest were fighting internally about who should take the blame. So I asked quietly, "Why tell me all this?" He leveled his gaze at me. It was the first time someone there had ever spoken to me without condescension or corporate varnish. "Because they should have treated you better," he said, "and because you deserve to know the impact of what you set in motion." I didn't celebrate, I didn't smile, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt done. "You're not coming back, are you?" he asked. "No," I said. "I won't ever work under people who laugh at loyalty and mock integrity." He nodded. He didn't try to convince me otherwise. But here's the part I didn't see coming, the part that reshaped everything I thought I was doing. Because just as I prepared to walk away from that cafe, he said one more thing. "There's something you should know, something the partners discovered after you left." I turned. "About what?" His answer stopped me cold. "It wasn't just clients who followed you," he said. "It was employees." "What?" "You aren't aware, are you? People didn't just admire your work ethic. They watched how you carried yourself. They watched how the partners treated you." He leaned forward. "And now nearly half the junior consultants are requesting transfers, sabbaticals, or outright resignations, not because you told them to, because your silence taught them more than the partners ever did." I froze. I had expected backlash. I hadn't expected this. "You didn't just take the clients, Evelyn," he said. "You took the core of the company's future. They mocked your silent resignation, but your silence is exactly what destroyed them." I didn't have words, because for the first time since leaving I understood. I wasn't the revenge, I was the message. I walked out of the cafe into the afternoon sun, breathing air that finally felt like mine. I didn't need to check their website to know things were crumbling. I didn't need to watch their stock. I didn't need to read the internal memos that people later leaked to me. All I needed was the quiet understanding settling in my chest. They mocked my silence. They mocked my exit. They mocked the idea that someone like me could leave and matter. But the truth was simple. They never noticed how much weight I carried until the moment I stopped carrying any of it for them. And the irony, the perfect final twist, the one they never saw coming. I didn't steal a single employee. I didn't poach a single client. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't campaign, manipulate, or persuade. I just walked away, silently, and the vacuum I left behind did all the revenge for me. I didn't take their future. They handed it to me the moment they decided I was invisible. And that's the part no one in that building will ever speak of out loud, the part that will always sound like a rumor, a mystery, a whisper in the hallways they still can't stabilize. She never raised her voice, she never fought back, she just left and everything fell apart.